Hello everybody, welcome to another Zabbix video. This time I'm talking about integration between Active Directory, Microsoft Active Directory and Zabbix. How to set up just-in-time user provisioning. And what is that? That is like like a technology which must be done once, and then we can completely manage all users at the side of Active Directory, like create user, assign to the user group, and job done. Like this user will have certain permissions in Zabbix. So this tutorial will be implemented for Zabbix 7.0, probably applicable to earlier versions as well. Let's start. And yeah, the first thing would be like the front-end server and making sure there is no firewall restrictions. On the right side, I have like logged into the Active Directory domain controller, which is holding the LDAP, and left side it's a front-end server. And I will kind of at first copy the URL of the front-end to the clipboard like this. Copy. Open the SSH on the front end and make sure like this is the correct server of the front end server, and like grep keyword Zabbix, for example. Enter. And since the keyword is found, like this is quite a good indication this is the correct server I have SSH'd into, because the LDAP management, it is at the PHP layer and yeah, highly related to the front end server and not related at all to the application server. Okay, next step is firewall rules, and here for all the next examples I will use is I will use like an alias DC domain controller, and whenever you see like DC in my one-liners, it's practically referring to the IP address. Okay, and the first thing would be like checking if there is no problems with the firewall. I will use netcat zv dc, and 389 is the unsecure port. Enter, and we see quite a good success. Connected to. So do not continue if you don't see the same, and yeah, if you use the unsecure channel, this is like the beginner level of the tutorial. But yeah, if you see here connected, then it makes sense to go forward. Next level is like simulating how is there even a possibility to list the users with the command line. And for that task, I will use the ldapsearch utility. It looks like this. And it kind of begs for two arguments. What is the binding user over here, and where is the like what kind of directory we want to query. Okay, and to get the binding user on the right side, we have like I have service users, and this will be my binding user. Right click. First of all, like if you follow along this tutorial, like I have selected this advanced features, and also this checkbox. This is critically important if you want to follow along. And then we can click the properties for the user, and there is like a field attribute editor, and we can really like copy this thing called distinguish name. Double click over here and like really copy this string to that utility. Okay, so this will be the binding user, and then like which directory we want to query. Okay, and I will like show initially like query this service user directory. So I'm clicking on the organization unit properties, and again attribute editor, and there is distinguish name. Click, copy. Okay, and we'll put it over here. Okay, so what is the binding user, and please list how many users are behind this service users directory, and in my case it's one user. Let's try to simulate. Copy these 6 lines, copy, and inside the SSH, let's clear the screen, paste and enter, and I will put my password abc12345, enter, and we can see in output like it lists number of entries 1, and it lists like same user, same LDAP user. It is a kind of dummy test, but it's a nice test in terms of lowering down complexity as much as possible, because we practically query the same organization unit where the binding user is inside. Okay, the next level, more real-life example would be like querying real users, which is located here inside the domain users. I have 3 sample users, so I will change this one single setting, like what kind of organization unit to query. Copy to clipboard, open my notepad, and I will replace here this line. Instead of service users, we will query, wait a second, copy and paste. Yeah, one letter changed. Domain users, let's try again. So this time the output should be like 3 users. Copy and let's clear the screen, click and paste and enter. ABC12345, and the answer is 3, and we can see another person, sensitive person, and hello world is there. Very nice. Like all we need to do is like now put this working command in another notepad, in another window, and open the config inside the Zabbix. There is a setting, LDAP settings, click, enable just-in-time provisioning, servers, add. So name, it does not matter, I will set DC. Host is also DC because it's coming from here. Port is over here. Base DNN, that is, now the order of arguments are different. Like the base DNN is like where are the users inside, and this is the answer. Copy, paste. Search attribute, this is the one, sAMAccountName, and like this, paste, and bind DNN, that's like the service user to query. Copy, I mean like service user which is used to enlist the available users. Paste, and I will put the password over here. And like testing the button, it's super important. Like if it does not work here, it's pointless to go forward. So click test, and like I have a user object inside the Active Directory. For example, this another. The username is this another. So I will use another and put that password. Like again, like ABC12345 test. So it does work. One interesting setting, which is also inside the Zabbix documentation, it is etc open LDAP and LDAPconf. It suggests to use these 2 settings. It's not out from the box. Like if it does not work for you, if it does not work for you, then edit this config, and it's kind of an empty config. Yeah, it's absolutely empty config, and at the very bottom these 2 lines are in my setup at the moment. Okay, one interesting tip is like since I did have a separate service users directory, like sometimes I know even myself I use it like this LDAP type of thing to simulate. But this time it will not work. We cannot use the same binding user because it's placed absolutely in a different organization unit. So if I click test, it will fail miserably. To solve this problem, like if you really want to use single user for the simulation, then we need to kind of move this object to the same position where we hold the users, so domain users. Now we have all together real human beings and beings and the real users, and now need to like almost remaster the whole point, like here domain users, copy, and this would be, let me cut this away at first, here domain users, and if you use Control F over here, like it's a nice pattern, like it's almost like comforting. It's even more minimal setup in terms of complexity, like setting the service user right side by side with other humans. So this can be a setup, and now test. We can really use zbxldap, and that ABC blah 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 test, and it works because I just move the service user side by side. I will still continue my perfect setup. I think it's more professional, like we have a service user directory, and here the service user is hosted in a completely different organization unit. One last test, if it still works. Another. Okay, test. Okay, it works. I will save this so far, so it's a working setup. Add. And by the way, here it will, if you do that for the first time, it will fail when you click update, because the provisioned group is empty. It's super mandatory to set something here. So click the select button, select disabled, and then we can update. Okay, leveling up this project, like the whole idea is to manage users completely at the side of Active Directory, introduce security groups and assign those objects to the group, and how the mapping should be done on the Zabbix side. And I'm saying like it's set it and forget type of functionality. You do it only once. And I would like to start with templates a little bit. In this tutorial, I will kind of make an example when the company owns Linux team, Linux persons, and Windows team, and we want fully trust the team, and by trust I mean they will be able to onboard new Linux objects. Linux team will be able to onboard new Linux objects. Also, they will be able to edit Linux template. It's kind of like a very, like, yeah, from my point of view, to make progress in the company, the trust is the only way, not the micromanaging and bureaucracy. That's usually not helping too much. So I will start from the perspective of templates. Here is like a stock Zabbix template coming from vendor. So one template for Windows team, clone, and we would call, let's keep it, yeah, Windows, how to, let's call it Windows monitoring, and here I will introduce something new, IT, like Win, for example. A completely new template group. This will be used in the permissions in a moment. And okay, so this is a very, yeah, it's a stock template, but now since I'm cloning, the Windows team will be able to have like full right permissions to edit and modify. Add. Let's do the same for Linux. Linux, enter. Linux by active agent, clone, Linux mon. And here IT Linux, something like that, click, and now we have a clone for the Linux. Okay, and now creating the user group, super important. Going users, user group, and let's delete this guy. Okay, create user group, and user group will be called Linux system admins, let's call it that way. And the template permissions here will be that masterpiece, click, and we will have write permissions. We trust the Linux team. Let's put them on the full screen. Write permissions, and on the host group also like Linux servers, like full access permissions, so they will be able to create new Linux servers and assign that single template with the active checks for new Linux servers. Okay, here everything stays default. Add, and the another group, Windows system admins, and same story. Here we will set the Windows template block, okay, and the servers Windows. Okay, add. Let's have a look if something is inside. Okay, this is correct. Windows, wait a second. Linux, okay, and Windows, yeah, the naming is match. That does match. Okay, so now we have user group ready, and for the user roles, I will use the stock role, which is called admin role. This role is used when we trust the team somewhere already, like when we want to give them permissions to edit the templates and edit the objects they really own. So this role will be used, and it's having some default sections. Now the last bit, I suppose, is setting up that authentication mapping, LDAP. We have this working setup, which kind of requires creating users manually, and we don't want to do that. And to solve that, we introduce just-in-time user provisioning. And here, to fill the fields, this one is CN. I cannot really motivate this answer this time, but the rest of fields I can motivate. And the member of, it's like the way how we will manage the permissions for the user objects. When we open an object, there is a field like member of, like this will be the position where we assign user something extra, that it belongs to the Zabbix and it belongs to certain team in Zabbix. So that's the reason why we put here member of. Username attribute, this is not mandatory field, but we can replicate the user name, which is here inside the Active Directory. We see like first name, last name, sensitive person. So I want to read these to set like a real nice user name and surname. To do so, we can steal the attributes in the last section here, attribute editor. And the username, I think it was given name here. Given name, it's a nice format here. Double click, copy this pattern to clipboard, and put it over here. The last name is like SN, surname I think it stands for. Here SN, double click, copy this SN, copy, and put it over here. Okay. And now the mapping. Let's say like another person will belong to the Windows team, and sensitive person will be to the Linux team. Let's set up some groups, and the groups must be done. Built in, yeah, somewhere here, and I will create new group, and we will call Linux team we trust. Okay, let's copy this to clipboard already. Copy LDAP group name, and so this must be here. LDAP group pattern, add, and that's it. User groups, so user groups will be Linux something, Linux system administrators, and user role admin, admin role, okay, add, and let's do the same for Windows team. Let's create group, Windows team we trust, add, and okay, the group is ready. Let's steal the name without any typos, copy, add, paste it over here, user groups, Windows administrators, and admin role, click add. Okay. And now the final thing would be like visiting the users and choosing which users will be Linux users and which will be Windows users. Okay, the sensitive person knows how to deal with Linux, so we will set that sensitive person is Linux team, something like that. Yeah, here it is, assign over here, apply, okay, and another person will be member of Windows team we trust, okay, apply, okay. Yeah, so this is the mapping update, and before we go forward, like the mapping is ready and we should switch here to the LDAP type, the default type LDAP. Before you do so, like make sure your user like here, admin belongs to the internal group, and you know the password for the admin. Like once you switch to the LDAP, if the setup is incorrectly configured, like nobody will get inside the front end. So we need like a backup scenario, like double check if admin user is using the group which forcibly not allowed to use default. If I click internal here, it's like it's not selected default, it's internal. So that's a last hope to get back in the front end without help of database. Okay, switching default to the LDAP and update. Okay, everything ready, but does it work? Let's see. Opening, for example, dashboards in incognito mode. So it is not allowing me. Login. So now I will simulate. Before I simulate, let's see what is that overall user situation. Like right now I have 5 users in total. If I click reset, it's 5 users. And the point of just-in-time user provisioning is like no manual work required to onboard new users. So we made this mapping with the LDAP, and will it allow to a new user which has never been in Zabbix, will it allow that new user to get inside? Okay, and one user is called another. This is Windows administrator, and I will put that password in, ABC 12345, and click. Oh, luckily this video will not be so long because it works. And so this is administrator, a Windows administrator, and it's having quite a powerful user role, but not the most powerful. Like the administration section is missing. And yeah, so the point would be here, data collection hosts. They see all the Windows hosts and only Windows hosts, and if they select host groups, like this is all they have. And they do have an option to create new hosts, and when they create new, it's mandatory to select the group, select the object to belong to somewhere, and they have only option to onboard Windows objects. Click, and also when they choose templates, they have always option to select single template, like how to monitor a Windows equipment. And if you go to the templates, click the reset, like this is all they see, like the masterpiece, how to cover Windows monitoring, and they do have permissions to influence, influence everything. So we trust the team, they know how to monitor the Windows. Okay, let's test the other user. log out, and the other user is sensitive. It's the name, and ABC12345. Sign in, and yes, it still does not crash. Data collection hosts, and this guy is seeing completely different picture, but when selecting host groups, they see Linux servers only. When selecting the templates, they see only Linux template only. So it's not a crossover membership when Linux guy can see Windows stations and vice versa. And going back to my super administrator, so this was 5 users initially. If we click reset, click, and voila, we can clearly see we onboarded a sensitive person. The name and last name field was replicated because we did introduce dot mapping, and for the another person as well. That got replicated. We see front-end access comes from the LDAP. Okay, that is everything. Quite interesting experience, like set it and forget type of setup. We do the clicking once, like do 20 or 50 clicks to set the mapping, and then it's like the setup we can forget, and it will work and assign correct permissions. If you find this video helpful, give it a thumbs up, and thanks for watching.